Imagine standing alone on a deserted island, the endless roar of the ocean clashing with the eerie silence of isolation. No friends, no crew, no rescue in sight. Just the overwhelming knowledge that survival now depends entirely on you. This was not fiction, but the brutal reality faced by a young Scottish sailor named Alexander Selkirk in the early 1700s. Born in 1676 in a small fishing village in Scotland, Selkirk was restless and rebellious, often clashing with authority. Adventure called to him louder than tradition ever could. At just 27 years old, he joined a band of privateers, essentially pirates licensed by the Crown, sailing the rough waters of South America during the War of the Spanish Succession. But while treasure and glory tempted many men, Selkirk's fate would not be shaped by riches or battle. Instead, his destiny lay on a remote, uninhabited island, where the fight was not against rival navies, but against loneliness, hunger, and despair. When he made the fateful choice to abandon his crewmates and stay behind, he believed he was saving his life. In truth, he was stepping into a test of endurance so extreme, it would become legend. This is the true story of Alexander Selkirk, the castaway whose years of solitude inspired one of the greatest adventure novels ever written, Robinson Crusoe. Paragraph 2. Selkirk's journey to isolation began aboard a ship called the Tinquay Ports, captained by a man named Thomas Stradling. The vessel was battered and leaking, and Selkirk, fearing it would sink, urged the crew to repair it or abandon their voyage. When his warnings were ignored, he made a dramatic demand. He would rather be left ashore than continue on what he believed was a doomed expedition. Stradling, eager to silence dissent, granted his wish. In 1704, on the desolate island of Mesa Tierra, part of the Juan Fernandez archipelago off the coast of Chile, Selkirk was set ashore with only a few possessions: a musket, some tools, bedding, a Bible, and a knife. As the ship sailed away, his regret was instant and crushing. He begged to rejoin his crewmates, but Stradling refused. Within minutes, Alexander Selkirk was utterly alone. The first nights were filled with terror. Strange animal cries echoed through the jungle, and the thought of starvation gnawed at him. He scanned the horizon endlessly, praying for a sail that would never appear. The full weight of solitude crashed down, and despair nearly drove him to madness. Yet even in those first miserable days, a survival instinct flickered. If he could not escape, he would endure. Slowly, Selkirk began to study the land that had become his prison, learning its dangers, its gifts, and the harsh lessons it would force upon him. Paragraph 3. The island itself was both enemy and savior. At first, Selkirk found shelter in a small cave near the shore, but his safety was short-lived. When mating season arrived, massive sea lions flooded the beaches, forcing him inland. What seemed like a cruel twist of fate turned out to be a blessing in disguise. The island's interior revealed hidden riches. Groves of cabbage palms, wild turnips, and berries provided food, while streams gave fresh water. Even more valuable were the goats, descendants of animals left by earlier sailors. With his musket, Selkirk hunted them for meat and milk. When his gunpowder ran out, he taught himself to chase them down on foot, becoming swift and agile across the rugged terrain. One hunt nearly cost him his life when he slipped from a cliff, saved only because the goat he was wrestling broke his fall. The island was no paradise, though. Rats swarmed his shelters at night, gnawing at his hands and feet. To fight them, Selkirk domesticated wildcats, who became unlikely guardians and companions. Bit by bit, he carved a fragile life from the wilderness. He built huts of wood and grass, stitched clothes from goat skins, and toughened his bare feet on volcanic rock. Though his body hardened, his mind struggled. Loneliness weighed heavier than hunger, and many nights he wept into the darkness, clinging to his Bible for strength. Paragraph 4. Years passed in agonizing rhythm. Selkirk rose with the sun, hunted goats, tended fires, and scanned the horizon for ships. Twice his heart leapt with hope as sails appeared on the edge of the sea, but both belonged to Spanish vessels. To be captured meant torture or slavery. Once soldiers landed on the island to search for fresh water. Selkirk hid high in a tree, barely breathing as men passed below, muskets at the ready. At one point, they even relieved themselves beneath the branches where he crouched, his heart pounding, yet he remained undetected. After they left, he returned to solitude, shaken but alive. His only constant companions were the cats he tamed and the goats he raised. His beard grew long, his skin darkened under the sun, and he moved with the wild agility of the animals he hunted. His knife dulled, so he reforged tools from iron scraps he found on the shore. He boiled lobsters, ate herbs like parsley and watercress, and lived with the land as his only teacher. Selkirk was no longer a sailor, but a creature of the island. Still, hope flickered in him, faint but unbroken. Each evening he lit signal fires, convinced that someday, whether by chance or miracle, someone would see his smoke and bring him home. Paragraph 5. That miracle arrived in 1709, after more than 4 years alone. On the horizon appeared two ships, the Duke and the Duchess, English privateers under the command of Woodes Rogers. Selkirk, wary of another false hope, waited until he recognized the rigging as British before sprinting to the beach. He waved frantically, lit his fires, and prayed. When a landing party came ashore, they were stunned by the wild, bearded figure who greeted them. At first, Selkirk struggled to speak, his voice unused to conversation, but soon his story poured out. 4 years and 4 months of survival, solitude, and endurance. Rogers, half amused and half amazed, called him the governor of the island. Selkirk's physical strength astonished the sailors. His daily goat hunts had kept him robust, and his wilderness diet had saved him from scurvy. Once rescued, he rejoined the world with renewed zeal, serving as a skilled navigator on further voyages. Yet he remained marked by his ordeal. The wildness never fully left him, nor the resilience that solitude had burned into his soul. His tale spread quickly upon his return to England, capturing imaginations across Europe. Few stories of survival seem so improbable, yet so undeniably true. Paragraph 6. Conclusion. Alexander Selkirk's extraordinary survival soon leapt from history into legend. His ordeal inspired Daniel Defoe's 1719 novel, Robinson Crusoe, a book that became one of the most famous adventure stories ever written. Yet the truth of Selkirk's years on Massa Terra is perhaps even more remarkable than fiction. Alone, armed with almost nothing, he endured hunger, fear, and despair, and not only survived, but thrived. His story reminds us that the human spirit, when tested, can adapt in ways that seem impossible. Selkirk's resourcefulness transformed an island prison into a fragile home. His faith and determination carried him through nights of crushing loneliness, and his will to live kept the flame of hope alive even when rescue seemed a dream. Today, the island he once called both torment and refuge bears his name, Alejandro Selkirk Island, off the coast of Chile. It stands as a monument to one man's resilience and a reminder of how close we all live to the edge of the unknown. For every comfort we take for granted, there lies the question, stripped of everything, could we endure as Selkirk did? His legacy whispers across time. Survival is not just about strength of body, but strength of spirit. If you've been captivated by this story, don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the strange, haunting, and unforgettable tales from our world's past.